Hello, I'm Jim Morningstar, Director of Transformations, and your guide through this 8-session Advanced Practicum and Apprenticeship in Community Building. The focus of this first class is preparation for building a more successful integrative personal and work life while reinforcing a spiritual community around us and gaining support from a network of like-spirited communities. The premise of this course is that you already live in communities of spirit, present, past, and future. Teaching communities. These are groups with which we consciously choose to teach and learn from more formally than the life groups we have chosen. Our, quotes, teaching may come only in part from our conscious planning self. It may well come from those hidden qualities we have yet to fully own within our larger self, and may come to us via transmissions not found on the Internet. I call these transmissions coming from the Innernet resources, such as our Circle of Guides, from which much of this course came to me. This Innernet is not bound by time or space, and may have more similarity to the Akashic records or divine inspiration. We all have this resource, and in this course, we'll activate or renew our Innernet library card. Now, I've advertised this course allows participants to choose between the Advanced Practicum participation and Apprenticeship participation, the latter being those who plan formally to teach a course such as the Creative Life series during the time that we're together. Now, this is correct, but what I was unaware of till the transmission came to me later in the course preparation was that everyone in the course will be choosing communities, present, past, and future, in which to teach and with which to learn and grow in our time together and beyond. So let me give you a little background on this. My story is that as a young student, I believed that the last profession I would consider was to be a teacher. My limiting image of teaching was someone cramming irrelevant information down the throats of unwilling participants for the purpose of having them regurgitate it to show that they could fit into a conveyor belt system of life productivity. Admittedly, this was not a very positive view of education. It was not until I found experiential spiritual learning that I was inspired to want to share it with others because it was so life-affirming for me. This led me on a never-ending journey of self-discovery, with a capital S, in which we're all teachers and students of each other. Now, here's where I felt I could truly let all of me out. After a few years of deep-level inner study and sharing, I had students or even strangers thank me for the insights and inner experiences for which they credited me giving them in their dreams or other altered states. Well, I was honored to be given such credit, but chalked it up to a nice fantasy or projection on their part because I had no conscious recollection of visiting them in their dreams or, in some cases, even knowing who they were. Then along the way, I was introduced to the concept of higher self and the Oversoul. The higher self, to which I've already several times alluded in this course, is that part of us more directly connected to universal consciousness and guidance. Higher, perhaps, because it stands a little further up on the mountain of awareness and can see past and future paths that are out of my mind's field of vision. I began to be open to the fact that if we are more in alignment with our higher self and living our purpose, that our positive intentions may be relayed to others through our higher consciousness, unbeknown to our limited in mind. Psychic sensitive people may well pick this up and acknowledge it before I have a clue. I would not at all be surprised if you had similar experiences on your journey. Not that you need them, but there are some folks like me who can use a wake-up call like this now and then to broaden my scope of possibilities as a teacher. The Oversoul concept came later through the teachings of Seth, a spiritual entity given voice by the author named Jane Roberts. I characteristically do not seek out mediums for advice, not because I see them as bad. Like everyone else, there are those good at their gifts and others shadowed by their egos. I have quipped that if my cornflakes started talking to me in the morning, I'd listen, as long as they had something valuable to share. In this case, Jane Roberts artistically introduced the concept of Oversoul to me through a small novel called The Education of Oversoul 7, which I found so thought-provoking I had it on my recommended reading list for years in the School of Integrative Psychology, as it is now on my list for this class. The premise is that there are spiritual beings or oversouls who have the task of guiding individuals connected in consciousness living simultaneously at various periods of history. Now, there's a mind bender the first time you hear it, because it defies all the logic of three-dimensional linear living. But since time is an artifact of the mind, and spirit is not confined by it, spirit can influence events, not control them, beyond our convention of linear thinking. Jane's story delightfully portrays how insights and breakthroughs in one lifetime are inspirational to souls to which we are connected in other lifetimes. Someone making a courageous, life-changing decision in this life can inspire a connected soul, or some would say themselves in a prior life, to also make a positive life-altering decision. In addition, there are communities of souls existing at various periods of history that have a common purpose and work towards common goals for the overall ascension of a planet, for example. Now, when a soul enters a physical reality in this concept, it does so following the modes of consciousness or belief systems prevalent at that time and place. If you were born in Africa, for example, you would be willing to be steeped with that consensus reality of how life works and the values of the times. But you would also carry the innate tools to grow and to see beyond convention to higher truths that prevail. Truth, justice, the sacredness of all life, for example. Eventually, you would gravitate towards others who are so dedicated, and together you can more effectively support higher consciousness in that reality. So you see an ad for advanced practicum and apprenticeship in community building, for example, and in hopes of finding kindred spirits, you sign up. But soon you discover you may have bitten off more than your ego wants to chew, because you're being asked to open to realities that are larger or more out there than you bargained for. But that remains to be seen. So let's proceed. I'm not asking you to believe any of these realities, but simply to experiment with them to discover what you may find that's useful to living your purpose now. Take Handout 3, Advanced Practicum Teaching Communities, and in Section 1A, Complete, a community which I am willing to positively influence and grow with simply by my intention to do so. This is not requiring that you recruit participants or send out flyers. In my present earth time and space is. Now, this could be a social action group, a political coalition, a charitable organization, a spiritual community, etc. Anything that calls to you now. Intuitively pick some group. You can always change it later. Then, in Section 1B, write, my intention for learning and growing in this community is. Now again, trust what comes out of your heart. Don't let your head cancel you out or make it too complicated. Then, in section 2A, complete a community in which I'm willing to positively influence and grow, simply my intention to do so from past Earth time and space is. And again, this doesn't require recruiting participants or psychically connecting with everyone there. This could be anything that calls to you. It could be from earlier history, like a Native American tribe, or early Christianity, like the Essenes, or from much earlier Earth civilizations, like Lemuria or Atlantis. Intuitively pick some group. You can always change this later. Then, in section 2B, write, my intention for learning and growing in this community is. Again, trust what comes out of your heart. Don't let your head cancel you out or make it too complicated. You may simply choose what comes to you, or you may want to do some research in areas or times that have an appeal to you. It's your choice how much time and energy you wish to put into this, but make it enjoyable and rewarding for yourself. Lastly, in section 3A, complete a community in which I'm willing to positively influence and grow with, simply by my intention to do so, in the future Earth time and space. Again, this doesn't require efforting on your part. Simply select anything that calls to you now that you imagine will exist or already exists in the future. For example, a community that lives in harmony with the natural world and sustains itself in concert with the fauna and flora around them. Or a group of luminaries who are helping chart the course of our planetary evolution. Intuitively pick some group. You can always change it later. Then, in section 3B, write, my intention for learning and growing in this community is. Again, trust what comes out of your heart. Don't let your head cancel you out or make it too complicated. Complete handout 3 and come back to the video. So you can see our community building activities extend now to learning and growing with communities in the past as well as the present and the future. Apprenticeship teaching community. I've been called in my life work to engage in teaching communities since the early 1970s. It lights my fire every time I do it, and this community of community builders is no exception. It feeds my passion and also tweaks my fears, which always signals me that I'm on track for fulfillment by way of challenge and growth. Fear means I'll be nudged or blasted out of my comfort zone to create a bigger playground and often find new playmates and or deepen levels of intimacy with current playmates. There are always surprises, and that's what keeps it interesting. By way of encouragement, I'll say that the anticipated rewards do seem to grow in greater proportion to the attendant fears. For me, there seems to be predictable goosebumps in the road along the way, including, first of all, getting the inspiration to teach, then having the courage to write it down and then communicate it, then to engage in the steps I take to manifest the group, which I will share with you in detail during the next class. But 2 of those steps we'll go through together in this class to get the ball rolling toward your manifest community. Your product. The first step is clarifying your product. What is it you have selected to teach and why? If you have selected to teach the Creative Life series, what is it that excites you about teaching it? What is it that turns your crank, so to speak, about presenting these topics to your community? Spiritual psychology, body mastery, prosperity, loving relationships, multi-level awareness, and completion. All the recordings, transcripts, teaching notes, and materials are at your disposal to use. But if you don't make them yours, They will lack your pizzazz, which is what touches your participants. You may want to follow my outlines more closely or more loosely, putting your own spin and examples on the principles being conveyed. It's okay if it takes a bit to do this. I taught it for 33 years, and each time it was different because it is very interactive, a co-creation, as it were, of those who bring their spirit to the playground to join with you. You direct, but you don't control the outcome. Again, all of the dynamics we will go over in later classes, but starting to clarify your product and community members begin here. Take handout 4, Apprenticeship Teaching Community, and in section 1A, complete. What excites me about teaching is fill in the Creative Life series if that is the course of choice, or whatever other class you're intending to teach this year. Then, in section 1B, write how this teaching is fulfilling my purpose is. Refer back to your statement of purpose to see how this teaching is linked to your purpose. Now, I heartily recommend that those in the advanced practicum who are not electing to formally teach a course this year complete this handout as an exercise for something your spirit would like to share with the world in the future, either formally or informally. Just your admitting to this can put the wheels of manifestation in motion in extraordinary ways that bypass your fears and limiting thoughts. So stop the video and complete handout 4, section 1, and come back to the video. Now, who are you inviting to be your playmates? If you're watching this video the first time it's being offered to the world, it's because I have envisioned you as a spiritual playmate, wrote your name down, and invited you. If you're watching this video sometime after the original course offering, it's because I have envisioned your spirit as kindred and extended this invitation to play with you in spiritual community. When I started making my list, there were 5 or 6 names on it that immediately came to me. This is like a core group who were asking for this on a spirit level even before I knew what it was. Your core group is like a magnet to help catalyze other members' intentions. Other names will start to come to mind and heart. Write them down before your mind can come up with excuses not to. This is important. Trust your intuition for who pops in and write their names down on your prospective participants list. Your heart is the attracting energy here, not your logical mind. Take handout 4, and in section 2, write a list of 20 to 100 people who come to you that would benefit from the spirit of the course you anticipate offering. For some facilitators, this will be their biggest personality challenge. It was always one of my biggest obstacles. I could have brilliant ideas, pure intentions, and boundless passion for the material, but asking people to pay money or exchange value for my presentation of it scared the bejeebers out of me. That's why Spirit had me go through my worst fear at the start just to get it out of the way. I marketed the dickens out of the first iteration of what evolved to be the Creative Life series when I was beginning self-employment. I did all the so-called right things and invited everyone I knew, including family, friends, to the inaugural session. Well, my worst fear. No one showed up, except the man I had counseled when I was working for the county mental health facility. He had no clue what the introductory course was about, but just showed up to support me. He thought I was a nice guy. Now, this was gut check time for me. Could I face my worst fears and move forward in what I had a passion to share with the world? Well, I got back on the horse, and the next time I offered it, those who I invited from my heart We're there ready to dive deep into personal and community growth. That's why you're receiving this video and my wholehearted support in following your own path and creating your own community of spirit. So let's do it. Take handout 4, and in section 2, begin your list of 20 to 100 invitees to your group. Save space for their contact information, email and phone, because after you make your list, you go back and fill in as much contact information as you can. Doing this then takes it out of the fantasy wish list into a working document, which you will use to create your community. I've done this for every group I've organized and facilitated myself. Stop the video and complete handout 4, section 2, using whatever format that provides you with a working list, starting with your core group members and including all those who intuitively come to you. Then come back to the video. Completing handout 4 has started your group. If you feel the calling and have the materials ready with dates and prices decided, begin making contacts. You'll want to get the first contacts to prospective candidates at least 6 to 8 weeks before the group starts. More to come on this will be at our next class. But if you're ready, go for it with love. That's your strongest factor in advertising and making it enjoyable. The greater enjoyment you're having in the process, the easier it is for prospective members to join you in the community. Anyone feeling called to be a community builder and teach transformations courses, contact me for information. Holding you in my heart as fellow travelers on the road home, I send and receive blessings for our circle and all sentient beings till next class. Blessings in light and love.